Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Angela Arnold, founder of Arnold Marketing, and I just like talking about marketing. Today we are going to go through a mid-year marketing audit so you can fix what's not working, double down on what is, because before we know it, the end of the year is going to be here. All right, so let's get into it. So again, why should you listen to me? Like I said, I founded Arnold Marketing. We are a performance-driven agency for health and wellness brands. We really try to simplify marketing and focus on results. No fluff, no gimmicks, no shiny objects, just what's working, what's not. In this next 30 minutes, we'll be talking about what are your most important benchmarks you should be tracking for marketing, some of the systems that we use for our own marketing audits for us, how to spot leaking profits and wasted spend in your budget, and how the keep, cut, and optimize strategy could improve your audit process and save you lots of wasted money. First thing is to take a breath and know your numbers. It may seem surprising, but we are more than halfway through 2025. Congratulations. I don't know about y'all, but it seems like this was a bit of a hectic year, very uncertain with the economy, and a lot of business owners not really sure what to do. One of the things that I've seen this year versus some other years is people know they shouldn't cut their marketing spend, but they need those dollars to stretch further. So that's what we're here to talk about today. Now, what you want to do is start thinking about how can I maximize the rest of the year? You need to get a full picture of where you stand right now that you've made it halfway through 2025, and where you need to go to finish out the year strong. Monthly numbers really just tell you the picture in time. They don't tell you where you're trending, how you're compared to this quarter last year, or even the first half of last year. So what you should do with your tracking data, yes, it's important to look at a monthly dashboard, but you really should stop now you're halfway through the year and compare your benchmarks. So are you meeting your own expectations for performance, or are you exceeding them? Or maybe you're falling a little short. That's something to look at as well. You should always compare it to last month, then take a step back now that we're done with the first half of the year, compare Q2 with Q1, and then do that also for 2024. Then compare the first half of this year with the first half of 2024. That's really going to give you an idea of how you're trending and how things are moving. Then the second step is to think ahead. What do Q3 and Q4 typically look like for y'all? Take a minute to set some goals for those numbers and where you want to be at the end of the year. Think about, do you want to just meet benchmarks, or do you want to increase by some percentage? And or are you aggressively focused on a specific number that you need to hit before the end of the year? This is related to a book my friend and mentor Lee Benson wrote called Your Most Important Number. Highly recommend this book, but the major thesis is traditional KPIs are just not aligned with the overall business and organization success and how you can create the most value. The most important number methodology really emphasizes what is the one number, the most important number called a min, that we need to focus on in order to succeed. If you can focus on that, you'll really start to see some good results. And it's amazing to see the turnaround in some of these numbers. I'll give you an example from our own company. So we have a scorecard. This is taken from EOS, or the Entrepreneur Operating System, if you're not familiar. And what we do is we track what are the scorecard numbers, what do we want to keep track of. Then our most important number is net profit. That's highlighted in yellow up on the top bar there. Obviously, each most important number, each min, is going to be unique for the business and for your own department. For the marketing department, you may have a different min. It may be number of raw leads. It may be cost per lead. Whatever it is, make sure your entire department knows what you're looking at and what you're tracking to. I will say, since we as an organization set net profit as our min, we went from having a net profit percent in the low single digits, if we were lucky in a certain year, to now we're meeting or exceeding our goal of 17 to 20% net profit. So just by having the entire team focused on what is the most important number, then you could really be amazed with the effort that's going there. So take a minute to set your min for the rest of the year. You only have 4 months between now and the end of the year. So what is that number you need to pay attention to? And make sure your entire marketing team will really be focused on that number that will move the needle for your brand. And don't feel like you're signing up for something forever. This is just from now to the end of 2025. You don't have to pick it of this will be our min forever. All right, so where are you leaking profit? That's the other thing to think about. So where is your oil leak? Let's say you go out to your driveway and there's a massive puddle of oil. It's dripped all down the driveway, into the sidewalk. Little Timmy was riding his bike and slipped in the oil and, broke his arm and he's screaming and crying. You would stop everything and address that oil leak and say, I have to fix this, got to take Timmy to the hospital, all these things. Now imagine the scenario a little differently. If you walked out into your driveway and your car had only leaked a few drops of oil. Not really a big deal. You'd probably get in your car and drive away and would think, oh, I have to address that someday. But what's going to happen is the amount of oil that's going to leak out from your car will be the same as that massive oil leak that dumped all at once. It just took a little bit longer time. So no, it's not an urgently critical situation, but it absolutely can add up and become something that you need to pay attention to. And that's the same with marketing spend. It adds up and it adds up and it adds up, even if it's a few drops at a time. So what you need to do is pay attention to where you are leaking cash, and especially cash that comes out of your bottom line versus cost of goods sold. This is really important, especially for marketing departments that need to hit certain budget numbers. This is obvious, but subscriptions are a huge source of money leaks in any organization, and especially marketing. I don't know what it is about marketing. We just tend to attract a bunch of tools and SaaS programs that we end up having to pay for in order to do any part of our job. I actually took this screenshot from an agency owner Slack group that I'm in, and they were trying to make a list of every possible, software tool for agencies, and just for project management tools alone, there were 95 different options. And that was just what they found just by asking the agency owners in that group. So yes, your team does need subscription-based tools to get things done, but it can add up really, really quickly. So here's how to fix your leaky subscriptions that are taking money from your marketing budget. So first thing is shake the team, get everything gathered in one place. We use an Excel sheet to list out all the tools we have, who's using that tool, how much it costs, and other information like when did we sign up, when does it renew. And then as a team, walk through this and say, is there anything we can cancel, or could we potentially downgrade the plan? You'll definitely find some old subscriptions in there that everybody else thinks someone else is using, but not actually them. And here's my real pro tip. If there's a tool you only need sometimes, cancel it between uses. You can just reactivate the subscription for 1 month when you need that tool again, and then cancel it once you're done. That way you're not paying for months and months of use that you're not actually using. So one thing to look at also is, where are you wasting profit, especially in your marketing spend? The last half of the year, Q3 and Q4, are really critical for a lot of marketers, and it's important to have as much budget available for use in these critical quarters as possible. We all know Q4 is the holiday shopping season, so make sure you're reserving that cash. Right now is your time to look through and see where are those leaky budget pieces in your ads. So do a little ad audit. I recommend taking a look at a few things. One is any campaigns that are high spend and low return. They may be getting good impressions and a good click-through rate, but if they're not driving revenue or high quality leads, take another look, maybe pause them or rework the funnel in some way. Is there a mismatch between the audience and your offer? So do you have your funnel stages set up pretty well in your ads? Is the messaging aligned to that? I did do a webinar on this last quarter, so you can go back in our videos and watch that. Keep an eye out on branded campaigns. This is an area where we really see a lot of waste unless you have a very competitive market where competitors are bidding on your own brand name and keywords, or if you have a brand name that's not really yet established and you're not top of the Google search results when somebody's looking for your brand name, you can probably cut the budget for your branded campaigns at least for a quarter or two and save some money. Keep an eye out for frequency fatigue. Are there retargeting campaigns that are really driving that frequency too high? Make sure you're not burning people out and spending money when they're just not going to convert. Same thing on placements and platforms. Instagram alone is like 4 platforms in one. So keep a really close eye on how ads are performing in Reels versus in Stories versus in Feed. That's something where your creative really needs to match the placement and it really needs to be performing for where it is. And then look for where are consumers just losing interest. What is your funnel really mapped out? Make sure that there is a clear customer journey that you're guiding them on. What I like to do is build top of funnel and middle of the funnel pools in Q3. And then in Q4, when we really need to focus on conversions, we have a bunch of people who have already been exposed to the brand, already exposed to what you do, and then you can convince them to buy in Q4. Here's some other areas where wellness brands and really any brand tends to lose money in marketing is ignoring lifetime value. So a lot of agencies will optimize for cost per click or click-through rate, or if they're better, they'll optimize for customer acquisition cost or maybe cost per lead. But really what they should be doing is keeping an eye on lifetime value of that customer. If you have a product or service where someone can do more than one transaction with you, make sure you're trying to get the customers who won't just convert once, but will convert over and over and over again. Another issue we see is pretty weak differentiation. Know that you do not exist in a vacuum. Your product does not exist on its own. Your market is doing research on what else is out there. And so you need to be able to make a clear and compelling argument for why you versus one of your competitors. Another thing we see is just weak landing pages. Try to look at your landing page as if you were somebody new to your brand and they had never heard of you before. They've never been to your website. They've never seen any of your other ads. Does that landing page tell your story, tell your position and your benefits really succinctly so that somebody who may be new to you can understand and convert right there? Related to that is, people love to focus on their product. Obviously, people are really proud of their product and its features, but what people are really looking for is the transformation. What's the benefit that they will get and how will that serve them? Focus on the end result and how you will make their life better and what the emotional benefit of that is. That will help convert a lot better than just listing your features. Another trap we see is an over-reliance on discounts. Customers then get trained to wait for promotions and kills margins. We've even worked with a clothing brand that has said from the beginning and always been very upfront about it is that they never have sales, that they just have built it into their margins and their business to just not run sales. And yes, some people are disappointed by that, but people also know that when they want to buy a piece of that clothing, that will be the price. They're not going to miss out because it might go on sale the next week. Another piece is retargeting not matched to the buying cycle. Again, I touched on this in our last webinar, but make sure that depending on the price point of your product or service, your length of window for retargeting adjusts. So usually the lower cost your product or service, the smaller, shorter the retargeting window should be. And then as you go up to high ticket items, you can do retargeting for a longer period of time. Just take a look at that. Another piece is not having funnel sequencing. So if you're just running a single campaign, a single touch campaign on one platform, one channel, you're just not going to get the same results as thinking through a full funnel multi-touch strategy. And then take a look at agency bloat. It happens. Sometimes agencies will add in all kinds of costs that may be unnecessary, or maybe their pricing model worked when you had a lower budget. Now that you're at a higher budget, you may need to take a look at their retainer or their percentage of ad spend. And the other flip side is if you're doing it DIY, make sure you have a professional come in and take another look. An outside perspective can be really helpful, especially if you're doing it in-house. The benefit of agencies is that we see all kinds of businesses all the time, so we have to stay really, really up to date. So it can be really useful to get someone to just take a second look at what you're doing. All right, so our next section is the keep, cut, and optimize strategy. As I said before, focus really, really matters. We do not have that much time between now and the end of the year. In fact, let's say we're just going to Thanksgiving, because we all know after Thanksgiving we have about a week or two in December, and then all bets are off. So we really have about 90 work days to optimize, execute, and see the impact of what you're doing. What tends to happen about halfway through the year is you started the year with some goals, and then suddenly more goals got added on top of your goals. So you have all these inherited projects and initiatives, and you need to take a step back and think about what can you realistically achieve within the next 90 days. What is possible to actually get done? Yes, you may want to get all of it done, but that may not be reality. Keep, cut, optimize is a technique that helps you hone in on what's necessary and what isn't. In fact, I used to have a manager who would tell me to ruthlessly prioritize. And I think that's a phrase you should keep in mind between now and the end of the year. What can you ruthlessly prioritize? Ways that we use this technique is by setting our yearly and our quarterly rocks. Again, this is taken from EOS, or by using a quadrant, and I'll talk about both of these things. Yearly and quarterly rocks, these are really just major goals. What do you need to get done this year? What do you need to get done each quarter? Ideally, each quarter's goals ladder up to the year's goals. It seems silly and obvious to say, but you would be shocked at how many marketing teams will set quarterly goals that have nothing to do with the overall yearly goals. So make sure you as a team are reviewing what are our yearly goals, what are our quarterly goals, and just ask yourselves, what can you or deprioritize from those yearly rocks and from your quarterly goals? Again, be honest with yourselves what you can get done and what you can't. I'll give you an example. So last year, our team, as always, we had our yearly rocks. We set our rocks every quarter. And then as we went into Q4, we set the same number of rocks that we did for Q1, Q2, and Q3. What ended up happening was real life. People got busy with the holidays because it was winter and the weather was changing. People got sick. And so at the end of Q4, we were looking through our rocks and looking through all the things we did not get done. And we agreed, Q4, let's maybe back off the number of things we need to get done. Let's ruthlessly prioritize what we need to get done. All right, the next method is the quadrant. So if you're finding yourself a little overwhelmed with everything you need to get done between now and the end of the year, put it on a quadrant or a spreadsheet and separate things out by the amount of effort and the amount of value or payoff that you expect to see from it. So what this will do is really help you prioritize what you should do now, what you should do next, and then if you have time, get to the do later or the don't do. This can be really clarifying as you try to set your goals or your rocks for the end of the year. And that's it. Those are my tips for making the most out of a mid-year audit. As a reminder, take your min, define your most important number and say, here's what we really need to focus on. Then list out all your focus areas, initiatives, upcoming campaigns. Make sure it's all driving to your min. And select just 1 to 3 of your top priorities. Make sure that you're focusing on things that will give you a high value for the effort that you're putting in, and that is your focus. Again, this is not trapping you, and these are the only things we'll get done between now and the end of the year, but what you're doing is setting the goal for, we know we need to make sure to get this done before the year is out. So if you'd like a little double check on your strategy, we would love to chat with you about it. If you're thinking, I have really no idea how to prioritize all the things that I need to do between now and the end of the year, we would love to help you do that. This is not a sales offer. This does not lead you to some credit card payment deposit thing. This is just our open offer to help businesses spend and think a little smarter and more efficiently before the end of the year. And there's no judgment. We won't judge you if your stuff is a mess, you don't know your numbers, you don't know your benchmarks, that's fine. We can help you at least get an idea of what you need to be paying attention to make the most out of Q3 and Q4. Thank you so much for your time today. This is a lot to cover in just 30 minutes. I really encourage you to go back through and look at some of our other videos. I try to make these as useful and interesting as possible and tactical too, so you can get the most value out of them. Of course, you can check out our website, arnoldmarketing.com, and keep an eye out for our next video. Thank you.